I want to personally thank Caitlin Clark for lifting up our sport. She carried a heavy load for our sport.
Honestly, no disappointment. Like, I think it just gives you something to work for. That's a dream. Hopefully one day I can be there, and I think it's just a little more motivation. You remember that. And
all right, buckle up because we're diving deep into the captivating story behind the Caitlin Clark Olympic snub. You're about to hear all the juicy details and insights.
I ain't apologizing. You make decisions, marketing. I want people watching. I want eyeballs. I want advertising dollars. Why? Because he'll get paid. Y'all will get paid. And guess who else will get paid? You see where I'm coming from? That's what it's about. Stop acting. Otherwise, we know this. You don't sit up there and pass on Caitlin Clark. It was stupid, Team USA. It was a dumb decision. Everybody, there's always somebody that's a sacrificial lamb. I respect the hell out of Rebecca Lobo and what she broke down. I understand it. It was a stupid decision because it compromises what your ultimate goal is, which is to elevate the WNBA brand.
All right, buckle up because we're diving deep into the captivating story behind the Caitlin Clark Olympic snub. You're about to hear all the juicy details and insights.
Reality is coming.
Okay.
There's levels to this thing, and that's just life. We all went through.
All right, buckle up because we're diving deep into the captivating story behind the Caitlin Clark Olympic snub. You're about to hear all the juicy details and insights.
It's all around the league. But as a coach of the home team, there's going to be a lot of people cheering for.
Okay, so let's finally talk about the other side of this. The USA team has finally, and I mean finally, acknowledged their regret about not selecting Caitlin Clark for the Olympic roster. Can you even believe it? For weeks, it felt like the entire basketball world, from diehard veterans to brand new fans, was practically screaming at Team USA, urging them not to make what we all saw as a monumental error. We begged them to see the bigger picture, to understand the seismic shift Clark represents in women's basketball. And now, they're not just making the mistake, they're reportedly paying for it in terms of public perception, and even offering some form of apology. It's almost ironic, isn't it? The Indiana coach, someone intimately familiar with Clark's impact, apparently shared a powerful message with her, saying they had unleashed a monster. Think about that for a second. A monster of talent, a monster of popularity, a monster of game-changing influence. And this isn't just fan speculation. Christine Brennan, a best-selling author and seasoned sports columnist who's been following this saga intently, pulled no punches in her USA Today column. She declared, and I quote, "I've seen some bad team and athlete selection decisions in the 40 years I've covered the Olympics. But this is the worst by far." She didn't stop there, adding a stinging observation that we probably shouldn't be surprised because the last amateurs left in the Olympic Games are the people running them. Talk about a mic drop. While some, like The Atlantic's Jamali Hill, suggest we might be over-panicking and putting too much weight on every decision, even Hill conceded that Clark will eventually make an Olympic team. And honestly, I wholeheartedly agree. Team USA's current regret over not picking her is palpable. And a huge part of that comes down to something Stephen A. Smith eloquently articulated: the absolute necessity of comprehending the marketing side of sport. This, my friends, is precisely where they dropped the ball, failing spectacularly on the marketing front. Now, while Stephen A. Smith might not have used the perfect phrasing, his core message, which I absolutely stand by, is undeniable. You don't need some fancy business degree, a marketing major, or even a college diploma to grasp this fundamental truth. Caitlin Clark is a viewership magnet, period. Full stop. If she's consistently pulling in massive audiences, setting new ratings records, and generating unprecedented buzz, then logic dictates that adding her to the prestigious Team USA women's basketball team, a squad revered and watched by millions across the globe, would do nothing but propel women's basketball to even greater heights. It's an opportunity to truly make the sport thrive on an international stage, to introduce it to new demographics, and to capture the attention of a global audience like never before. And yet, for reasons that still baffle many, she was conspicuously absent from the roster. This is where I strongly disagree with the decision-making process. What's even more telling is a specific clip that surfaced, clearly indicating that none other than Taurasi, a legend in her own right, was vehemently opposed to the idea of Caitlin Clark making a significant immediate impact from the very beginning. Her stance seemed to suggest a resistance to Clark's meteoric rise and the potential shift in dynamics she represented. And speaking of legends, let's unpack that further. Without explicitly naming Caitlin Clark, Diana Taurasi strongly implied that Clark's unprecedented success, the kind we saw electrifying arenas at the University of Iowa, wouldn't simply translate to instant dominance in the highly competitive WNBA. It was a subtle, yet unmistakable hint, suggesting a potentially difficult adjustment period for the young phenom. But the narrative gets even more complex. There's been a persistent theory circulating that Cheryl Reeve, a prominent figure in the league, harbored some form of personal animosity or strong negative feelings towards Clark. This wasn't just idle speculation, it became strikingly apparent. Observers noted during a highly anticipated game, when the Minnesota Lynx, coached by Reeve, faced off against the Indiana Fever. If you watched that game, or even just saw the highlights, you could almost feel the tension. Reeve's entire demeanor on the sidelines, her body language, her expressions, her overall interactions, seemed to make it abundantly clear that she was, shall we say, not the biggest fan of Caitlin Clark. It wasn't just a coach's rivalry, it felt deeply personal to many watching, adding another layer to the complex decision-making around Clark's Olympic mission. Alright, let's get to the crux of the matter. Why exactly was Caitlin Clark left off the prestigious Team USA squad for the 20? Like many of you, we were absolutely stunned when the news broke that the 22-year-old phenom, arguably the most talked-about player in basketball, was overlooked. But now we finally have some clarity, courtesy of Jen Rudy, the esteemed chair of the Women's National Team Committee. Rudy explained that a comprehensive, multifaceted list of criteria was meticulously used to determine who USA Basketball and head coach Cheryl Reeve would ultimately select for Paris in July. And here's the crucial, almost unbelievable detail. Television ratings and raw popularity, believe it or not, were explicitly not considered as factors. Think about that for a moment. This single fact dealt two devastating blows to Clark's chances, especially considering she's currently the undisputed most popular player in the WNBA, selling out arenas coast to coast and consistently attracting massive viewership. It feels incredibly counterintuitive, doesn't it? Especially when you consider that the entire Olympic Games, from a host country's perspective, is essentially one giant marketing campaign. Rudy clarified that this wasn't some snap decision, it was a rigorous, 3-year process where players were assessed based on their entire body of work. While acknowledging Clark's unique circumstances, Rudy expressed satisfaction that the committee rigorously adhered to their selection criteria, which again deliberately excluded TV viewership and marketability. The committee, she stressed, was specifically instructed to disregard all outside influences and strictly follow these established guidelines when choosing the 12 players destined for Paris, aiming for an 8th consecutive gold medal and a 10th overall. Since the criteria itself included elements like U.S. citizenship, availability, raw playing ability, tactical versatility, coachability, attitude, adaptability to the team concept, leadership prowess, how successfully they acclimatized to intense international competition, and their potential contribution to the team's overall success, it remains conspicuously unclear which specific criteria Clark supposedly didn't meet. But what is clear is her remarkably poised response. She stated she isn't disappointed and plans to use this as powerful motivation moving forward. And get this, another supposed reason for her exclusion was to avoid upsetting fans with a perceived lack of playing time. However, this excuse falls completely flat when you remember that legends like Diana Taurasi, Candace Parker, and Breanna Stewart all played for Team USA before ever stepping onto a WNBA court. They did exactly what Clark was attempting to do. Yet despite this glaring double standard, Clark handled the entire situation with an exemplary level of class. She's been actively cheering on Team USA during the 2024 Paris Olympics, watching as much as she possibly can, even joking about canceling her own practices to catch more game. When directly asked about disappointment, Clark's answer was pure motivation. She sees this as an incredible opportunity to work even harder and prepare for her next shot. 4 years comes fast, she wisely remarked, reflecting on the swift passage of time and fueling her drive to be on that team in the future. But here's where the real-world impact becomes undeniable. Recently, Team USA played against Japan, and the attendance numbers scream volumes about the decision to exclude Clark. For context, the Spain versus China match drew a massive 27,200 spectators, making it the biggest turnout. Nigeria versus Australia had 24,023, and Team USA's game, a paltry 13,040 attendees. That's over 8,000 fewer than the average attendance in the early days of the games. It's almost comical because while Caitlin Clark might not be strictly necessary for Team USA to win, her sheer presence could, without a doubt, attract exponentially more viewers. This whole situation, despite Team USA's 102-76 victory over Japan, vividly illustrates the extraordinary effort made to exclude Caitlin Clark from the team. The "don't want to upset fans with lack of playing time" excuse seems increasingly flimsy, especially when you consider the absolutely volcanic attention Clark commands across all social media platforms. And here's another kicker: Mike Estelle, a respected member of the selection committee, actually expressed regret over the decision in an interview with NBC Sports during the Olympics. Stale flat out said that if they were making the decision now, Clark's recent outstanding performances, averaging 17.9 points and 10.4 assists per game, even setting a record with 19 assists in a single game, would have made her an extremely strong candidate for the squad. Stale's remarks are a powerful implication. Clark's rejection from the Olympic squad might have been a monumental missed chance, particularly when you consider how her electrifying participation could have dramatically amplified interest in Team USA's quest for their 8th consecutive gold medal. Ultimately, at the end of the day, Caitlin Clark being left off Team USA wasn't just another roster decision. It became a seismic turning point for women's basketball. It laid bare just how much the sport has evolved, yes, but also how far the system still has to go to truly embrace that evolution. When you look at the stark reality of declining viewership, the disheartening sight of empty seats, the overwhelming public backlash, and even the committee members themselves expressing regret, it becomes abundantly clear: Clark's absence didn't simply remove a player from the lineup, it stripped away crucial momentum. Her influence, you see, stretches far, far beyond mere points and assists. She's a phenomenon who consistently fills arenas to capacity, shatters television records, inspires legions of new fans, and injects an undeniable infectious electricity into the game that you simply cannot manufacture or replicate. And the fact that Team USA's Olympic Games drew some of the lowest attendance numbers, while passionate fans held up signs boldly declaring, "You need Caitlin Clark to beat us," tells you absolutely everything you need to know about the colossal impact she had, even when she's not physically on the court. Yet, in the swirling vortex of all this noise, all the criticism, and all the drama, Caitlin Clark's response has been nothing short of remarkable. Pure composure, unwavering maturity, and relentless motivation. No complaining, no bitterness, no excuses, just a calm, almost prophetic understanding that her time is coming. 4 years comes fast, she declared, and that one single line alone reveals exactly why she's not just becoming a star, but a genuine future icon of the sport. Meanwhile, the committee rigidly stuck to their criteria, stubbornly insisting that marketability and global reach played no part in their decision. But whether you personally agree or disagree with that stance, the world, my friends, has already made up its mind. Fans know precisely what she brings, broadcasters understand her value, the league recognizes her pull. And yes, the Olympics, whether they choose to admit it or not, profoundly felt the void of the most talked-about player in the entire sport, not being showcased on the world's biggest stage. But here's the most powerful, inspiring part of this entire narrative: Caitlin didn't just watch Team USA, she actively supported them, studied their game, and channeled every single moment as fuel for her own relentless drive. And when you truly consider how rapidly she's improving, how quickly she's shattering records, how effortlessly she commands and dominates the spotlight, you cannot help but wonder, with bated breath, what will the next 4 years truly look like? Will Team USA's roster decisions finally evolve and align with this thrilling new era of the W? Will her absolutely massive global following inevitably shape future selection processes? And will Caitlin Clark return to the Olympic conversation not just as a mere candidate, but as the undeniable, undisputed face of the team? Because if history has taught us anything at all, it's that athletes who face moments of perceived snub or adversity like this don't just fade away, they come back louder, stronger, and more unstoppable than ever before. But now, it's truly your turn to weigh in. What do you think? Did leaving Caitlin Clark off the roster genuinely hurt Team USA's performance and viewership? Was this a colossal, missed opportunity to exponentially grow the sport on a global stage? And do you, like me, believe she'll not only make the next Olympic team, but utterly dominate it when she finally gets there? Drop your thoughts, your insights, your predictions in the comments section below. Your voice is a truly huge and vital part of this ongoing conversation. If you enjoyed this deep dive and breakdown, be absolutely sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and smash that notification bell so you never, ever miss our latest sports analyses, breaking updates, and exclusive insights. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for continuously supporting the channel. And as always, we'll see you in the next one. Oh, and just a heads up, mark your calendars. More Clark and the Indiana Fever are set to play next on August 16th against none other than Diana Taurasi and the Phoenix Mercury. You won't want to miss that show.